All right, we are live. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Blockchain Buzz. I'm tongue-tied right off the get-go. Like to welcome my guests today, Crypto Archie, the one and only, and of course, the great Caesar Gets Crypto. What's going on, guys? How's it going today? How's Halloween?
It's been good. It was good.
That's right.
Archie, you take the helm.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really celebrate Halloween too much. I know a lot of people, like to celebrate Halloween. I had a couple friends ask me, "What are you doing on Halloween?" I was just staring at the charts, to be honest. I wish I had time for stuff like that, but honestly, I was just occupied with crypto.
Let's make that money. Exactly. Did you take your little one trick-or-treating, Caesar?
Yeah, I took my little one and my little one. We got a 3-month-old right now. She's almost 3 months old, and we were the nightmare before Christmas. I was Jack Skellington. My wife was Zero, and then my daughter was Sally, and my youngest was Oogie Boogie. I don't know if anybody knows those characters, but that's from Nightmare Before Christmas. It was fun. Yeah, we did a costume contest. And we won second place actually, so it was actually a lot of fun. Halloween was great. No charts. But I get that. Sometimes you got it. Whenever you're in the zone, you got to get it.
Yeah, exactly. The Pumpkin King, exactly. So, guys, why don't you introduce your channels? We'll go with Archie first here. Tell us a little bit about yourselves, your background, and your channel, what you cover, what you like to generally talk about.
Yeah, so my name's Archie. I have a channel called Crypto Archie, and I've had the channel for a good few years now. Initially, I started off very much as a low cap channel. I was big into the AI coins when we had the whole ChatGPT hype initially, and we saw, major rallies of the crypto AI coins. And then I kind of pivoted into gaming when that was quite hot, and then pivoted into some of the memes when they were doing well. But then really, when I noticed that the market wasn't favorable to risk on cryptos, I kind of pivoted to more of a blue chip channel and more of a channel looking for the higher value, assets within crypto, the likes of Sui, Tau, some of those cryptos, because low caps have been getting destroyed really for a good part of over a year now. If you look at the others chart, it's just been battered. So yeah, I look at the macro, I look at high caps, and yeah, I'm just analyzing the crypto market daily, really.
Nice. What about you, Caesar?
All right, hold on. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Caesar. I'm just trying to post a link actually to this live stream. My YouTube channel, I just do, I do TA daily. I've got some motivational videos, which I feel like I'm more known for. I feel like those are the more popular videos, but I know a lot of my subscribers follow me for the TA. I've been in crypto since 2015. And I got the classic Bitcoin story where I bought Bitcoin at a low price, but I didn't hold on to it. I sold early. By the time I got back in, it was the all-time high. And then I made a bunch of mistakes in my first cycle, man, a bunch of mistakes. A lot of people here, oh, you got into crypto in 2015. You must be like a billionaire or something. It's like, no, man, I lost everything in the first cycle, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to. And that's kind of the vibe of my channel. Is I try to, especially whenever it comes to newcomers, like I think we all do, we like to look out for them and make sure that they're not making the same silly mistakes that we've all made, or just easy mistakes that people do. So I try to shift my focus to talking about things to avoid and stuff like that, and just where I went wrong in my first cycle, and then where I went right in the second cycle too. And hopefully the good and the bad, we can make a killer cycle in this third cycle, though it's been a little bit stagnant in various sectors of the market, but we're looking for, I think we got more to go. I don't know. That's, that might come later in the conversation, but that's my channel in a nutshell.
Yeah, I think that if you don't get wrecked in crypto your first time around, are you even in crypto, bro?
They say the worst thing to happen for anybody is to actually make a bunch of money at first, because then you don't know risk management. It's actually good for traders or investors to experience loss to some degree. The more money you have, the bigger your losses are going to be. And if you haven't sat through that, you might get emotional, and when you're emotional, you make the wrong decisions.
Yeah, I was going through the comment section of one of your videos the night before last night. You were talking about Bitcoin, I think it was the night before last night, and I had mentioned it in a video or a live stream because it was just absurd. Like 80% of the comments were people that you could tell it was their first cycle. And when times get down like this, I find that you can warn people that the market's going to test them, right? It's going to push you. It's going to push your patience and your conviction. And when it's not really pushing you, it's easy to say, oh, no problem. Nothing's going to shake me out, man, right? Diamond hands, whatever, laser eyes, whatever you want to say. But now, a lot of people's brass is being tested with this market. The sentiment is so bad right now across crypto X and YouTube. And like I said, I was going through the comment section of your video, and I was just howling at the comments like, well, there's not going to be an altcoin season. You don't know what you're talking about. It's a bear market. We're going down. Like, I was like, wow. It's like 85%, you know? And that's a good thing.
We've all been there. We've all been there. Yeah.
I find that's a good metric.
Yeah, the negativity right now is crazy. Like, if you look at the fear and greed, it's actually not in the extreme greed category, extreme fear category, sorry. But it almost feels like we are in that extreme fear. So I think right now, the main thing is like apathy. Like, no one actually wants to, you know, watch crypto content. No one really wants to do research into new gems. It's just like the interest is really a peak low. And I kind of described it as peak boredom. That's kind of where we are in the market right now. And I think it's especially painful because it's that time of the cycle where everyone was expecting the biggest returns, right? Everyone was expecting Q4 post-halving year to be the year where we're all making the crazy gains. So I think that's why it's especially so frustrating for people.
The crypto fear and greed index, I think, is a great tool and it's very accurate. But like you said, and I agree with what you're saying, Archie, in the sense that it feels like extreme fear. But even though the reading's not saying that, and that's if you're counting on the fear and greed index in itself, sometimes it's not completely perfect either, though it is a pretty good thing, whether you're using CoinMarketCap or using the alternate.me one, whichever one it is. They're both pretty good, but they're not perfect. So we really could be in higher levels of fear than what's actually being expressed. I don't know, though. There's a lot of accounts on x.com that are saying, I'm done with crypto, you know, screw this stuff. And they're not saying it's just the trend. You know, I hope everybody understands that. And I think they're doing it for the algorithm to try to push it further. But something that that I noticed, you guys know Carl from the Moon?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One of like the bigger YouTube channels. He made a what's it called? A poll earlier today and said, did Bitcoin already top this cycle? And right now it's like 42% say yes and 58% say no. So there's a pretty big divide. It's never been like that. I've noticed across these polls across the market, there's been like an 80% or higher assurance that the top is not in, that we have higher to go. But right now that's just kind of crazy on like one of the bigger faces in the space making a poll like that. And it's pretty 50-50. It's not 50-50 yet, but it's like 58-42. I think that's pretty interesting.
Well, I think it's that whole 4-year cycle argument, right? You've got half of the people arguing that this is the top based off the 4-year cycle. We should have topped, you know, in October, if you look at the date range trend. And then you've got another kind of half of the people who are saying that, no, this time is different. We're going to have an extended cycle. Look at the money supply. Look at the stock market going to all-time highs. Look at gold. So you've kind of got two camps. And, you know, one camp is pretty sure that that's the top because a load of people I know, they just said, I'm going to sell in October regardless of where we are. So I think that's really the tension right now. And it's a difficult one. I mean, I'm kind of torn on it a little bit, to be honest, whether the top is in or not for Bitcoin. I guess it really depends how we react with that Gaussian channel or 50-week moving average, which we could talk about maybe a little bit later, but we were discussing it before the stream.
Well, yeah, let's kind of dive into that a little bit. Like we were talking about behind the scenes there. Most people, I'm noticing a lot of people judging where they think the market's going to go based on the charts using different tools like Archie just talked about. I personally like to use the the 50 week on the weekly time frame for Bitcoin. I believe we're going to pull down to around right now. I think it's at 102,800 or something like that, which it will go up after tomorrow to like, I don't know, 103,300 or something if we close above and we don't hit it, right? It'll move up a little bit after. Yeah, tomorrow's a weekly close, right? So it will move up a little bit, negligible, but, and then again, you use the Gaussian channel. I saw you using Caesar. You like to use the fibs. And so me personally, I do believe we are going to see that one last little, move down to around 102, 103. What do you guys think? Let's start with Archie. What do you think, man? You can share your screen too, guys.
Yeah,
I can.
I can share my screen and kind of go over what I'm seeing here. So basically, we've hit this Gaussian channel. It's basically the same as the 50-week moving average. We've hit this multiple times, this bull market, and it's all about the weekly closes, right? You can have wicks below it. They don't count. It's about a weekly close for me. And you can see we came below it slightly during the tariff Armageddon during April, but we managed to actually close the week slightly above it. 78K was the close, 74K was the wick. And we actually double bottomed around that Gaussian channel, right? We then did it again during this 8-month or whatever it was sideways consolidation, which was really grueling for everyone. We hit it twice then, once at 48K and another time around 52K. So every single time we hit this Gaussian channel, which is this big green band here, we have gotten a bounce. And it's not just this cycle where the Gaussian channel has, had a lot of significance. You can see last cycle, we hit it during July, we got a bounce. We hit it during October, we got a bounce. But when did we lose it? We lost it in Q4. It was around December. That is when we actually had a weekly close within it. And you can see that we came out the other end. And that's typically what happens when you lose the upper band. You typically end up coming out the other end. And, that was a brutal crash. So you would have had confirmation that we were entering a bear market by the time Bitcoin was at 46. It then went all the way down to 15. So a pretty good short opportunity from a macro perspective there. But right now, it sits exactly around 102.2, 102.3K. That also aligns slightly with where we had that massive dump during the flash crash around 103. So there's a lot kind of building up around that level between 102.3 to, around 103K. And I was saying to you guys before we started the stream, it almost seems a little bit too obvious. And I'm quite a contrarian investor. When everyone's saying a certain thing, I tend to do the opposite because it becomes too obvious. And when something becomes a consensus viewpoint amongst investors, I would say 7 times out of 10, it doesn't happen because the market makers like to play tricks with us and the masses aren't normally right. So that's kind of what I'm thinking is, yes, there's a solid chance we could come down to that 102. But my worry is if we do go down there at this stage in the cycle, it would be November. Are the bulls going to push us up? Okay. Or is it going to be one of those situations where we could end up having a weekly close within it? And I was talking to some guys the other day and we were discussing, like, let's say we were crashing down to around like 100 on like Wednesday of the week, just middle of the week. By Sunday, by the weekly close, where could we be at? If everyone's thinking we're gonna invalidate here, we're gonna go down. And by the way, so many people are looking at this level, the 50-week moving average. Yeah. Where will we be by the end of the week? We could go from like 100K all the way down to 90K within a short period of time. I think the fear really would be unprecedented because people know how good of an indicator this is. So I think you're playing with fire. If we're going to come down to around 102, you're playing with fire. And I would get a little bit worried, a little bit stressed. But quite often those periods are the bottoms as well. So it's a big question about how much do you believe in the 4-year cycle versus crypto just following the stock market and following global liquidity.
Yeah, that is a big debate. A lot of people lean towards Bitcoin actually following global liquidity as opposed to the 4-year cycle. Yeah, and I could see the argument. And I do agree with you that, because here's the thing. About 2 weeks ago, I started calling for a move down to around 102 to 103,000. And this last like 4 days, all over X, I've seen all of a sudden everyone's coming out of the woodwork and calling for the exact same thing, which is now starting to make me think, well, how many shorts are piling up right now, right? So I'll segue over to Cesar. That I know you like to look at the shorts and the longs a lot. What do you think?
I was actually going to comment on that, the liquidation levels and everything. I was going to say, and I don't know, how do I share my screen this way? Do I just click present?
Yep, you go down to should be a little screen with a plus sign inside of it.
Share screen.
Yep.
Share screen. Okay, let's see.
I know you're an OBS guy.
Yeah. Let me see.
The reason I don't like using OBS is because you can't, like with StreamYard, you can specifically choose which screen it stays locked onto, as opposed to OBS, where if you change what you're looking at, it just follows, right? So.
Right. I do like OBS. I've just been using OBS for so long. I don't know. StreamYard definitely seems like it has a better system set up, but I do like OBS. My heart's there. Can you guys see this?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So the liquidation levels, like Rob was saying, leading me up to this here. What I've noticed, I mean, obviously you can see here, and CoinGlass, I just want to say first and foremost, CoinGlass I think does a great job, but they're not perfect either. I don't think this data is 100% up to date or accurate, but it's like a close representation. I like to think of it like that. It's not perfect, and it's just important to remember that. Okay, but nonetheless, here we've got about $14 billion in shorts piled up. That's what this is over here, right? The green line coming up all the way over here. That's the total cumulative volume in shorts. Each of these little bars is just levels in price where they are, but we've got about $14 billion in shorts piled up against $8 billion in longs over the past 30 days. And that's a lot of money. But from what I've been seeing, because I pay attention to this like every single day, this is actually a very low amount of leveraged positions in the market. So it's kind of interesting. We've had this opportunity where shorts, there were like $20 billion in shorts in this area at one point. And now there's not. It makes me think that the profits or close their positions, perhaps because something else is coming. Because again, like you were just saying, I myself have even called recently, and this is recent after this pullback here, that we would go down to about 103, 105K. That's the expectation. And I wasn't aware that so many people were calling for 103, 102K. I thought everyone was calling for below 100K. So the fact that you guys have both said that's something you've heard makes me rethink my own stuff, because I like to be contrarian too. I'm just saying, all I'm trying to say right now is there are not a lot of shorts and there aren't a lot of longs. This is the lowest amount of leverage that we've seen in what has been an overall very high leveraged area since July. So if there was a time to make a move to break out one way or the other, it's definitely now. We're definitely getting to that point. I'm to the upside. I think that we're in a megaphone pattern here, regardless of if we go down or not. If you guys know my theory on the megaphone pattern here, if you've heard of what I've been saying about it, there's a thing called a partial decline, where you reach for the trend line here. And I say my theory, it's not like I didn't make this up. This is just how you go by the book. A partial decline where you reach for this trend line here and you don't hit it, you find support above it. That typically means you're going to break out to the upside. But in my own experience, doing this now for a little bit of time, my own experience, the times where we do break out to the downside are the times where this partial decline comes in and then you throw it back. So if we were to come back down to this trend line, the likelihood that we break out to the downside would be very, very, immense. It'd be immense. So right now there's still that hope because we have higher lows, but if we give that up, I would be worried. I would definitely be worried. That would change my whole consensus of Bitcoin anyways. I'll stop sharing screen.
Yeah, I've said on my channel too that if Bitcoin drops below the 50-week and starts closing solid weekly candles there, that's when I will, you know, adjust my stances, and maybe we are going into a bit of a bear market here.
Where is that 50 week at right now? What price?
102,000, 100. Let me pull up Trading View here. 102,885.
Okay. The line in the sand right there.
But again, after the weekly close tomorrow, we'll be a little bit higher than that, right? I'm thinking like 103,300-ish range. So
yeah, it's creeping up. It's creeping up, and that's kind of the beauty of it in a way. If that is your invalidation point, then it means it's just going to keep going higher. So by the time it does invalidate, let's say it invalidates in a month, the bull market, then it's higher than where it is now. So, you know, if you've been buying Bitcoin since 15K, then I mean, it's all good. You know, if it does invalidate, I mean, maybe it didn't give us the bull run we expected, but at least you got a very good exit, right? And that's kind of what it is for me. Now, I have a percentage of my Bitcoin that I'm never going to sell, really. And when I say never, I mean like I'm not going to sell it in the next 10 years. But my altcoins for sure. I mean, I'm not round tripping altcoins, and I almost think that 50-week moving average you can apply to being your altcoin invalidation point as well, because if Bitcoin enters a bear market, it will drag the altcoins down with it. Now, you can still have altcoins do well if Bitcoin's ranging, right? But if it's entering a full-blown bear market, that is not the environment for an altcoin rally. So I think it's really good to have that on your trading view, that 50-week, and just have it pinned, because it's so important. I mean, we've come down and tested it so many times this cycle. When it breaks, mark my words, there will be a major flash crash when it breaks, because so many people are looking at it. Everyone's going to sell all their bags. I would say Bitcoin would probably have, you know, a 10% dump to the downside the day it breaks, or within the next 48 hours of it breaking.
yeah, I mean, I've gone back in time and I've shown whenever Bitcoin has fallen below it, like back here in December of 2021, near the end of December of 2021, what happened, right? We got into a bear market for almost a year and a half before we finally climbed back out of it up here and started working our way into this cycle. And same thing, the only time it's dropped below and it wasn't a bear market was right here, and this was the COVID drop, and it V-shaped right back up over top of it again in very short order. And then back here you've got your 2017 cycle where, you know, the end we dropped below it, and this was about a year and some change, and then we started to work our way out of it again. So you're absolutely right. As soon as it drops below that line, you know, you're likely going to be spending the next, and I'm talking like closing weekly candles below it, right? Wicks or nothing is wick down here and stuff, but yeah, you're likely looking at a year and some change at least below that 50-week once that happens. So, and until that happens, I'm not concerned. Like, we have rather, the positive side for me is that we have rather aggressive moves to the upside every time it hits it in this cycle, right? Like, these are aggressive moves up in very short order. So that's the potential bullish, you know.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. I was going to say that I have a few friends in the space, and they've told me, and I agree with it, that if we do go down to the 50 and we get a bounce, that's ideal that's the ideal scenario for the bull case, right? If you have the bull case of us going to a new high, we almost need to come down to get that momentum to get a really strong bounce. If that was the bottom there that we just had during the flash crash around 103, then maybe it's not going to be enough fuel to get to a new all-time high. Maybe it's the case for a lower high, right? But if you come down to the 50-week and you hit that level, all the buy orders are going to be triggered, and you're going to see a massive V-shaped recovery. So there's a theory out there that almost it's better if we come down a little bit, so then we can get more fuel to move us to the upside, right?
Well, it definitely shakes a lot of the weak hands out. Like, And that's the thing about the weak hands I wanted to touch on earlier, is that as frustrating as it can be to hear people like myself and you guys say, you know, you got to hold on, you got to be strong, you got to be patient, and you got to be consistent in this market to succeed. You know, and people get frustrated hearing that, especially when they're being tested like right now. But, you know, the truth of the matter is, the people who do get shaken out, paper hands, weekends, whatever you want to call them, we need those people, because without them, who's buying who's FOMOing back in at the top, right? Those people. That's as sad as it is, right? So what the message I try to get out there is, if you are one of those people and you do cave and you sell the red, you sell the lows, for the love of all that is holy, do not come back into this market when everything's going parabolic and start buying the top, because now you're double wrecked, right? Just at that point, just wait until the bottom of the next bear market. You know, wait for Bitcoin to drop 65, 70%. Wait for the alts to be down 95 to 99% before you start to re-enter the market. You know, and then we have that argument.
I feel like I literally say the same thing on my channel. I'll say, if just like when we're getting into the bull market, you buy and every dip is for buying, it's not for selling, you're only in buy mode. We're at the point now where if you're starting to sell, don't get back in, because you will be exit liquidity. You will, you know, most likely. I mean, you can still, the thing is, we're at this point in the market where I really do think that we're about to see just this finale phase kick off. And I think no matter what amount of capital you've lost, you can make it back and then some, as long as you still have some skin in the game with the amount of gains that are coming in the altcoin markets. I really do believe that. And maybe not every altcoin, but there's going to be a healthy amount of them that grow. We're going to see that alt season. We're going to see crypto grow as a whole. So I really agree with that too. If you're selling right now, be in that selling environment. Don't buy back in. Just like when you're getting into when you're getting into the crypto markets, you want to buy and hold and buy. If you're selling, no matter how much higher it goes, just keep selling, DCA out, you know, don't buy back in, because then you do risk becoming exit liquidity in times of euphoria. I wanted to share something else real quick, just to put things in perspective. Okay, let me see here. Hold on. Because everybody's so fearful. Everybody's so worried about the price right now. And with good reason to a certain degree, you know, it could happen. Maybe like Archie was saying, we need a little bit more fear. Well, you know, we'll see. But just this real quick. Do you see this?
Yep.
So do you notice how here I've measured basically every drop. I didn't measure this one because I feel like it's the same drop twice. I just took the bigger drop. I measured every little drop along the way in this bull market. By the way, we are in a bull market. We've got higher lows and higher highs, guys, for anybody who's doubting. This is the smallest drop we've seen all cycle. Not a single one is below 20% except for this one. We're a bunch of drama queens. People are comparing this crash to COVID. Does anybody remember what happened back here on March in 2023? Or what happened here? Anybody remember what happened here? I can tell you what happened here. That was the oh no, never mind. I actually don't even know what happened here, to be completely fair. This was the ETF
crash.
This was right here. That's what I was going to say, Archie. Yeah, no, it was this one here. Maybe it was like a news event around ETFs or something like that. Maybe they were getting kicked back or something. That could have been this one. But when they got approved, that was this little in between here, because it was January 11th. All these drops are way more significant. We've been through worse. And what I've learned as like a technical analyst, just at the fundamental phases of learning, is that this long consolidation behavior where you're just moving sideways and stair stepping effectively up higher and higher. And we've kind of been, I don't even know what to call all this, man. It's like consolidation phase here. You consolidated down here. We've got a consolidation phase up here now on top of this one. We've been consolidating for very long periods of time and very methodically moving up with very minimal drops, by the way. And this one is the most pathetic of all. People are in maximum depression right now. No alt season, no nothing. People are acting like this market's been dead. I can't help but think we have a lot more to go in the finale phase. Again, this part of the cycle, it hasn't even kicked off. I would equate where we are right now to what we were doing back here. I literally feel like we were in the final days of what was a very long and boring period right before the cycle finale finishes. Just again, though, to put it in perspective, the drop we have, this is the smallest drop we've seen all cycle. And people are comparing it to COVID. That's where we are.
Well, lately I've been saying that, you know, for the people that have been around for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years into crypto right now are generally the loudest. And listen, I understand we generally indoctrinate new people into crypto with unrealistic expectations because of so many content creators out there promising the moon tomorrow, right? So I get it, why people would assume that they're going to come in and, you know, yay, I'm going to see the moon tomorrow. Yeah. But at the same time,
it happens. It happens, man.
I mean, in the last cycle, what happened in May? Right? We had like a 44% correction on Bitcoin. If you're, like Caesar was just talking about, if you're kind of, you know, shaken and stirred by, I don't know, an 8, 10, 11% correction, whatever it is, and it feels like that's devastating, how would you handle a 44% correction in 1 month? Could you imagine the complete devastation and scorched earth sentiment? But when you hear, but when you hear a lot of people talk about the 2021 cycle, all you hear about is sunshine, rainbows, and lollipops. Like, it was the easiest, 2021 was the easiest year of all. And it's like, I went back, we had like 15 corrections on Bitcoin, ranging from 11% to 44%. I think the average was like 25%. 15, that's during November of 2020 and November of 2021. That's not sunshine and rainbows. And in the next cycle, people will look back at this cycle and they'll say the same thing. Oh, it was easy. You know, this time's different. It's harder.
It's just hindsight. You know, in hindsight, it looks easy. When you zoom out, yeah, it's up only. But in the middle, there's a lot of pain and suffering. And that's the thing. People, I think it's a lot of the newbies, actually, like, they keep asking, is this the last dip? Is this the last shakeout? And it's like, my answer is no. There'll be so many more shakeouts, like, along the way. There will be many more red days. I mean, just go back at 2021, like you said, and look at how many red days there were. There were a lot of red days. It's just the green days that are green, they outweigh the red, you know, when you zoom out. But this whole idea, I don't know where it's come from, of like up only, banana zone, no red at all. That's just nonsense. There's always going to be red. There's always going to be shakeouts. It's just the bulls outweigh the bears on a long enough time frame. But yeah, I just don't know where this whole mindset has come from of like, is this the final red week? Is this the final red day? Is this the final dip? No, there's going to be many more dips. And even if we have an extended cycle, like some people are arguing, there'll still be many more red days, even in the bull market.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that, honestly, because where I finished off was talking about that finale phase, and it looked like it was a straight line. And you guys said it perfectly. It feels like it. Like, when we look back at it in hindsight, it feels like it's a straight line, but we forget those dips. And there will be, for everybody watching, there will be in altcoins especially 30% to 60% dips in your favorite altcoins before they're anywhere near their tops. You're going to see them run up 5x, 60% dip in a month, and then they'll continue to run. That's the finale. And maybe it happens for some coins. Maybe it doesn't happen for every single coin, but it's very common for these crazy, intense swings to come your way as you're building higher. And you'll look back at it and remember as if it was a straight line, but you will have to sit through things. Conviction will help you hold through any of those swings as long as you have conviction. And then one more thing. Sorry. Everybody right now who's watching this, look up, if you don't know, what is a right translated cycle? Look that up. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago on the show, we talked about these companies like Strategy and MetaPlanet and, you know, so on and so forth. Tom Lee's Bitmine, you know, putting Bitcoin and Ethereum and now altcoins like Solana and XRP on their balance sheets and stuff. And this is causing a lot of people to talk about how, well, you know, there's not going to be a bear market for Bitcoin anymore because it's like Strategy's never going to sell. MicroStrategy, this is just my opinion, MicroStrategy's average cost on Bitcoin, I think it's about $74,500 per coin, I think, somewhere around there. So what happens when Bitcoin does go into a bear market, right? Now, Caesar, I know you and I disagree on how high we think that Bitcoin will go, and I'll talk about that shortly, but let's say Bitcoin hits $60,000, drops to $60,000 at the bottom of the bear market, right? Let's say that. Strategy's average cost is $74,500. So what happens to strategy stock when their holdings are worth less when they're in the red? Are their shareholders just going to be okay being in the red for a year and a half, 2 years before Bitcoin climbs back up over it, or is strategy going to be forced? Or are they really just going to take profits at the top like everybody else and buy back in at the bottom? Like, is Michael Saylor's story going to change to strategy, you know, to their strategy being let's sell the top and buy the bottom, right? What do you guys think about that? Archie, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think strategy is going to be a great short opportunity. I know you can get like inverse strategy ETFs. So I think whenever it looks like Bitcoin is entering a bear market, you're going to make even more money potentially shorting strategy. So yeah, I mean, people quite often ask me about MicroStrategy and at what point do they have to sell and all of this. And honestly, it's one of the areas in crypto where I would say I'm not educated enough to truly speak on it. Like, I don't know at what point it's a point of no return for them. Can Bitcoin go to 50K? Can it go to 30K? Like, I don't know. Some people say 30K is problematic. Some people say 50. Again, I'm not sure at what point it becomes disastrous for them. But what I do know is Michael Saylor has had basically zero interest loans, right? So it's low risk for him. And then the second point is his connections are incredible. So maybe if something did happen, he could be bailed out. He's close to Trump. You know, I don't know how it works, but I doubt Trump as the president would allow MicroStrategy to completely implode. I think it would look bad on him. And Trump's the type of guy who cares about his image, right? He doesn't want something to look bad on his behalf. So
an understatement.
yeah, so maybe they would have his back if something did go wrong. You know, I don't know, but it is a concern of mine. They hold a huge percentage of the supply if you compare it to other people. It's still a small percentage overall, right? But when you look at the second biggest holder and the third biggest holder, they're by far the biggest holder of Bitcoin, besides Satoshi, right?
Yeah.
So it is a concern of mine, to be honest. And if you ever hear any FUD around MicroStrategy, I think there's going to be some good short opportunities, because once it's one of those things, right? Once the cat's out the bag, I mean, it can get bad quite quick. That's kind of what I would expect. So I am a little bit worried with that.
When somebody pushes that snowball down the hill, right?
Yeah, it's a snowball effect. It'll be a chain reaction, negative feedback loop. You know, there's a lot of different analogies you could give, but I'd be worried if there was just talks of it, you know, because that's how things work. It's a chain reaction. Once there's talks of it and it's all FUD. It's all narrative driven, this market. And I think MicroStrategy FUD would be one of the worst things for Bitcoin. I mean, I'm not trying to FUD because like I said, I think they've got good connections. I don't think he's an idiot, Michael Saylor. I think he's a smart guy. I don't think he would put himself in that position, but I'll just go back to what I said at the start. I'm not educated enough on this particular issue because I don't know at what point it's a disaster territory for them. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, there does have to be a line in the sand for sure. What do you think, Cesar?
I think Archie answered. I think you're a smart person, Archie. It's a pleasure meeting you, man. You definitely sound like a smart person. You answered that very well. I think I really liked your answers there. And Rob, nice back scratcher, by the way.
I like that.
So my answer was basically going to be, I looked up, I'm glad Archie went first because I just looked it up. I typed in who are the largest holders of MicroStrategy stock, and the largest holders, Michael Saylor, as Archie was saying, does have friends in high places. The largest holders of MicroStrategy stock or strategy now is Vanguard Group, Capital, International Investors, BlackRock. Other major holders include Citadel, Jane Street, Morgan Stanley, Growth Fund of America, and there's the list keeps going. You know, like, I mean, those are just some big ones to name drop right there. So what I'll start off by answering this question after that, what I would say is, if the price went down to a point where MicroStrategy was in the red with its leverage monies, with its leverage holdings of Bitcoin, I don't know if it would default or what. I don't know what that would mean. That would certainly spell trouble for crypto. But my thoughts are, first and foremost, if the price were to ever go down that low to $70,000 again, I would think there'd be too many people down there to buy to let it go that low. Let's say it goes to 30,000. Let's say Bitcoin's a total scam and it goes to 3,000. There's going to be, unless there's an actual fault in the code, there are going to be people with large amounts of money who want to scoop this thing up, right? There are die-hard hodler believers who have been in this space for a long time, who even if the price goes that low, they're going to keep injecting money into this thing, like those companies that I listed just a second ago, right there. I think there's too much buying pressure. But in this scenario, which in my head, anything's possible, but I feel like this scenario where MicroStrategy implodes, at least right now, at least for right now, maybe in the future they get irrational and put on too much risk, but at least right now, I think they're in a position where it's kind of a fairy tale to assume, from my perspective. And I'm disagreeing with that with people who think that it's going down there, but that's okay. We can have different opinions and still be friends. I don't think that it's going to happen. I just don't think it's going to happen. If it happened, that'd be bad, but I don't think it's going to happen. I can't imagine. Just because I can't imagine it doesn't mean it can't happen. But there are too many people with too many deep pockets involved in this to let that implode. That's my stance.
Yeah, not in a sense of imploding, but that kind of segues into what I wanted to talk about in regards to market manipulation. Do you think that the temptation for the very people who are obviously, clearly, in my opinion, suppressing prices, and I'm going to go through a whole list of reasons why I think that these prices are being suppressed. Do you think that the temptation for them to push Bitcoin down to $50,000, $60,000 so that they can buy truckloads more of it is not just too tempting for them to pass up?
Should I go first?
Yeah, go ahead. I see the wheels turning. By the way, the back scratcher, I just got full. My back just got a full tattoo done, so it's healing, so it's itchy as hell.
My initial thought is that the top holders of Bitcoin, like the top 10% holders, or even the top 5% holders, top 1% holders, let alone as you climb that ladder, Bitcoin could drop to 30K. They're not selling, Yeah. They're going to be buying more, and maybe they take profits at certain points. I'm not saying they don't play the game here or there, right? And risk on, risk off at the quote unquote appropriate times. But if I just can't imagine that. And just because I can't imagine doesn't mean it can't happen. But my answer to that would be, I think that the top percentage holders, which hold the majority of Bitcoin as far as wallets go, they wouldn't sell even if it went down there. So what's the benefit of pushing the price down that low? All the plebs or the people who have less significant amounts of Bitcoin, they're not even going to be selling you their Bitcoin at that point. You're pushing the price down at probably a cost to you at that point. I don't know. I could be wrong. And I'm talking about things that I don't necessarily know about either. I'm not a market maker. I don't have any experience doing that or anything like that. So I don't know what the cost would be or how it would be. Like what was the cost of this coordinated effort on October 10th? Because if there was selling pressure, there was a cost. They had to sell their cryptos. They made a ton of money. There was billions, 20 billions of dollars that got liquidated that day. But what was the cost for that 20 billion? And that's what I'm curious. What would the cost be to push the price down that much? Would it be worth it to whoever is capable of manipulating the price? And I think it's very obvious. I don't know. To me, and I think it sounds like to you too, Rob, that we believe that the 10th of October was a manipulated, coordinated event. So it is. Yeah. It is. There are clearly people who are capable of manipulating the price, but again, at what cost? And they clearly can't do it forever. That's my thought there. I don't think it'd be worth it for them to push the price down that low. There's too many people who want to buy it and not enough people who want to sell it, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why we do this, right? To have different kind of perspectives. And absolutely, man. Yeah, I think that the 10th, wasn't that the whole Binance thing, wasn't it blamed on the fact that Binance is not using a proper Oracle like Chainlink for price feeds? Wasn't that what they were trying to blame it on?
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Yeah. That's what I've heard from people. I mean, basically, obviously there was an event that caused a sell-off, which was the additional tariff on China. That spooked the markets, but then I think that was almost used as an excuse to destroy the entire market. And I heard things with Binance and Chainlink, and there was some sort of unalignment there or something. I didn't look into it super deeply, but I think for sure, essentially, the event was used as an excuse to just crash the hell out of altcoins. And I just think people, I don't know, I think people are a little bit too bullish when it comes to a bear market. The expectations are a bit too optimistic. I think we will have a bear market, and it will be brutal. I mean, think about this. Bitcoin went down to 74K during recessionary fears from 109. Now, obviously, the tariff thing was that was the main kind of scare factor, but the whole point was we might be going into a recession, therefore we should sell risk on assets. Imagine if we had an actual recession or an actual multi-year correction in the stock market. The Mag 7 maybe retraces 50%. The S&P 500 maybe retraces 30%, 20 to 30% over a year or two, and we have slowed growth and we have consecutive GDP quarters in the negative. Where would Bitcoin go then? If we dropped to 74K just off fears of a recession, I feel like an actual recession would drop it far lower than 74K. I'm not necessarily saying the 20s or the 30s, but I think that big period where we went sideways for 8 months, between 47, I think, or 49, and like 70K, that big period of price action, I think we're going to go back and retest that big period, because we went sideways for basically a year, 2024, between 70 and 49K. So I think we're going to go into that region. I don't know if we'll go right down to the 49 or whether it'll be maybe more like 64 or 69, which were the two highs from 2021. But I do think we'll come maybe slightly lower than the 2021 all-time high. But I think, what was the initial question? I think I kind of deviated a little bit away from it.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. You've more than answered it, actually. You've kind of segued into where I wanted to go next. It was that, and this is going to be like nails on a chalkboard to my boy Cesar, but I think that, this next possible leg up for Bitcoin, maybe, I've always said, I think the top for Bitcoin is going to be somewhere around 150 to 180, maybe 200K on a wick or something like that. But my range is generally 150 to 180. And a lot of people, I think recency bias for newer people in crypto, been here for a year and a half, whatever, they started buying Bitcoin at like 90,000, 100,000. They hear me say that and they go, that's way too bearish. But a lot of us were buying Bitcoin at $15,000, right? And a move from $15,000 at the bottom to 180, that's not a bearish move at all. It's just recency bias kind of tells you, well, from where we are right now. So I do think that the next move up, I'm looking at a bull pennant on the monthly time frame for Bitcoin. It's going to move us around 140. So I do think that we end up going parabolic in the medium term here for Bitcoin. Alts will go through maybe February, March, because altcoin season, 80, 90 days after Bitcoin kind of tops, give or take. That's kind of how I see things playing out, which leads into what you were saying, Archie, about I think that would bring us down. If Bitcoin went down about 70%, that should get us in a range between $40,000 to $60,000 for Bitcoin at the bottom of the bear market. That's how that would kind of work out. Now, Cesar, don't kill me. What do you think, brother?
So if Bitcoin went all the way up to, what would you say, Rob, if you had to guess your number was for the top, the cycle top? I know you give a range and that's great, but if your life depended on it.
If my life, I would say like 157.
157, okay. 157. So if we dropped 70% from there, that would put us down to like 45K. We could drop more than that, right? We could drop down to like just below 40K, something like that. There's rationality in that thought, I think, because that's a perfect area to pull back to. That's like the golden ratio zone of our prior cycle high to low on the Fibonacci here. I'm just looking at it right now. But if this were to be a cycle in which we don't top off above let's say $300,000. This would be the first cycle that Bitcoin ever had, and this is a cycle of first, let's be fair. But this would be the first cycle that Bitcoin ever had in a flawless, historical, lifelong endeavor with the pi cycle top that the pi cycle top indicator did not work. It was pretty flawless last cycle. It called the end of the cycle. It didn't call the cycle top, but it did call the end of the bull run. And it's been flawless throughout the whole, like the entirety. Even the cycle bottoms are pretty well respected to that indicator. I really lean on that a lot. And then there's also that RSI macro trend that we always interact with. I have a theory about that. I don't know if you're aware of that at all, but I theorize that we will touch. Let me actually show you. Let me show you, because I feel like just for
let me be clear. I would be ecstatic to be wrong to the upside as opposed to the downside.
You can't lose. You can't lose. I have a friend who he thinks Bitcoin's going to top off in the same area. He's like, I hope it goes where you're saying it's going to go. He's been in the space as long as I have. But he's realistic. In that stance, you can't lose. Let it go. I love that. Whenever trolls come around, they're like, haha, you're wrong. It's like, yeah, and I'm making more money now. That's like good. Let it go up. That's great. The monthly time frame here. If we're looking at the monthly time frame, every single cycle, and this is dating back to 2010. Okay, every single bull cycle, we've interacted with this monthly trend line. Let's say on the RSI, right, with these lower highs here. We've interacted with that. We have yet to interact with it this cycle. And I use the RSI pretty regularly. This is anything but a bearish stance. I know that there's bearish divergence, but we've already kind of cleared that out. I would say with this move down, typically with bearish divergence, you move lower, but I'm getting lost in the semantics of this. I mean, the one argument here would be that there is some bearish divergence. Let's be fair. But
it kind of looks like
overall, I would say this is a very bullish look on the RSI. And we have not interacted with this trend line yet. Every cycle we've interacted with it. I'm sorry?
It kind of looks like a bull pennant on the RSI.
It kind of does right here. Yeah, it honestly kind of does. And that patterns do work on the RSI just like they do in the charts too. But that's a different discussion. Every single cycle and alternating from this monthly time frame. I've talked about this at length a few times. The first cycle, this peak was 4 months away from this peak. The second cycle, this peak was 7 months away from this peak. The next cycle, it was 4 months again. It went 4, 7, 4. There was no second peak here, but that's because instead of a double top, the second, which is actually where the all-time high was on that second peak. That was, so it goes 4, 7, 4, 7. The thought here might be, if we repeat then, that after we hit this line, it'll be 4 months later that we top off. So to answer your question in a long format, not only do I not believe that this is the top right here, that we would top off at 180 to 170K, but I believe that from a time perspective, after we touch this trend line, we will have a 4 to 7 month period, 4 to 7 months, 7 months there, 4 months, 7 months there, of which we will explore higher prices to find our actual top, whatever that might be. And every single cycle, every single bull market, it's that second peak. Whether it interacts with the trend line or whether it doesn't, it's the second peak that marks the top, not the first one. So that's my stance there.
I would happily concede being wrong in that scenario, brother.
I think, just to put a nail on it too, I think we're going to 500K, and I think anybody who's bearish would, unless you're sidelined, you would be happy for me to be right, for you to be wrong there. Hopefully that's the scenario that happens. That's what I think is going to happen personally, but we could talk about this for hours.
What's your stance on it, Archie? What do you think, brother?
I agree we'll go to 500K, but not for at least 5 years, in my opinion.
So you think the next cycle?
I think probably the next bull run, maybe the one after even. But I think the whole cyclical trend with Bitcoin is going to change. So I think we can kind of, at some point, dismiss like the typical structure, where we have like a 1 year parabolic move, a 1 year bear market move, and then two years sideways, or kind of in between. I think that's eventually going to break, and we will have like 5 years up, 2-3 years down. It's going to be more of a mature asset, and eventually it will be more like gold. I don't think we're there yet. But at some point, Bitcoin will go into like a 5 year bull market. I'm sure of it. And at some point, it might go into a 5 year bear market. as the asset matures. I don't think it's just going to go up only. If you look at gold, I mean, gold was down for ages. It didn't really do anything. And then all of a sudden, it's just been up only for a few years. So I think that's how Bitcoin will go. But this bull market, I don't see us going personally anywhere really above 150, to be honest. I think there is a chance the top is in. I'm not kind of fully on that road or whatever you want to call it right now. There's a chance. I think if we close below the 50-week moving average, then I would say I'm pretty sure of it. But if we don't close below that, then I think we're going to 140 as the next level. I think that would be the next target. I just don't see these super bullish targets coming into play. And I know if you look at previous cycles, we've had those types of big moves. But eventually, you know, we're going to see significant diminishing returns, and we're not going to see the same scope of a bull market that we've seen previously. You know, there's going to be one bull market where it is a bit disappointing. And I think a lot of people are ruling that out, you know, and we look at the RSI and there is a solid chance that could play out, but I don't think it's like 100% guaranteed. You know, there's going to be at some point a cycle where it doesn't play out and a lot of people get wrecked hoping for these 200K plus targets. Another one is the fibs, right? If you look at the highest fib level, it typically hits that every cycle. If you do like macro fibs, it typically hits the highest possible fib level, right? I don't think it will do that this time. That's, I think, 230K, something like that. I mean, I'd have to double check on my chart, but typically Bitcoin goes full extension with the fibs, right? And it goes for that highest possible target, from the complete bull market top to the complete bull market low. I can go through it right now on my screen. If you could just pull it up. So typically, yeah, it's 240. My bad. I think I said 230. It's 240. So typically, Bitcoin goes from the high, you do the fibs from the high to the low, and typically it tops out at that very highest level, which is saying 243K. It did that in 2021. It did that in 2017. I think 2017 actually maybe went a bit higher. But I think this time around it's not going to do it. You know, because eventually it's going to break, and I'm betting on it breaking. I know people say the trend is your friend until it ends. And yes, usually you should go with the trend and you shouldn't be contrarian. But I personally feel like this time we are going to see a significant diminishment compared to the previous bull market.
So I think the general consensus... Oh, you're muted, Caesar.
Thank you, Rob. Can I ask something?
Yeah.
So if let's pretend we're all agreeing here then, because I clearly think we have a lot higher to go left in the bull market. You guys aren't convinced that the bull market is over yet, but not on the same level as far as how high it could go, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's pretend that we all agree on where the market will top. Can we agree that while $180,000 or $150,000, let's even say $140,000, that range is great. That's a great price. Those are new all-time highs for Bitcoin. Anybody and everybody holding Bitcoin since however long ago, everybody's ecstatic. Can we agree that that would be a disappointing bull market from the perspective of prior cycles?
Yes.
Okay. So I mean,
anything below 200 is like off. It's like it's abnormal, right? Anything below 200, I would say, is not normal. But I'm kind of expecting that to happen in a way.
And by my standards, I'd say 300K, but tomato, potato, whatever, you know. So my question is, if we can all agree that that would be a disappointing cycle, what do you think the bear market would be like then?
I think we're headed for a catastrophic bear market across all markets, maybe in 2027. I think precious metals, stocks, I mean, you name it. I think that's going to be when you're going to want to be in cash and deploying into just about everything. Personally, that's my perspective.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we're overdue a macro bear market in all assets, and I think the warning signs are coming with gold spiking so much. S&P looks like it's getting ready for a blow off top, that final kind of stage of the S&P bull run. The Mag 7 continue to give out good earnings. I think you're starting. Amazon went up loads the other day after the earnings. I think you're starting to see signs that we're getting to that final blow off top. And if you look at markets, I mean, they've been going up since basically just after the 2008 crash. We haven't had like a multi-year correction. I don't know how much you guys follow like the broader macro cycles and stuff, but you know, property, stocks, all these assets generally have a crash every like 18 to 20 years, something like that, right? And we're getting to that point now. Since the last crash, if you measure the time since 2008, we're getting to that point where it's almost been a couple of decades. We're 2025 now. You know, in 3 years, it will be 20 years since 2008, and we'll be far due a crash by then. So I agree with the 2027 thing. I think the way they're cutting rates, we're going to get blow off tops probably in the property market. The stock market's going to go a bit higher because of the rate cuts. But eventually, you know, you can keep cutting rates, but eventually they're not going to have the positive effect that they were intended for. And people will be broke, and you can't stimulate the economy too much. And that's where you have the recession. So I agree completely.
All right. So just to respect everybody's time, we'll jump into our final thoughts. I know it's getting late over there where Archie is. I don't want to keep him up until 5 o'clock in the morning. So you got any final thoughts there, Cesar? What do you think, buddy?
I just think you guys are potentially onto something with this bear market stuff. I'm with you in the idea that there is a big crash coming. I just don't know if we're there yet. I think that might be further down the line, maybe after this current administration comes to an end, but maybe not. Maybe it's during this administration. We do have a president, and the president of the United States is not the president of the world, but we do have the president of the United States who is, he's got an ego. Whether you like Donald Trump or don't like Donald Trump, without getting political, I think we could all agree he's got an ego. I don't think he would want, and who cares what he wants, right? But he's the president of the United States. I don't think he'd want to go down as the president that's known for one of the biggest recessions since the housing crisis. I think this might be something that's pushed off a little bit further down the road, but we'll see. There's, you know, you guys make a lot of compelling points that this could be closer than I'm giving it credit for, and I'll definitely be paying attention to that. I think everybody should, and there's nothing wrong with having cash on hand for that reason, right? There's nothing wrong with doing that. A lot of us like to go full gung-ho, fully allocated in the markets like myself, but you know, thoughts like this are a haunting reminder that having cash and having maybe some gold, some resources that you can hold on to if times get tough, you definitely need a rainy day fund. So it's always good to be prepared. On my channel, I like to prepare you guys for the upside a lot, but it's sombering reminders that we need to prepare for the downside as well, you know, that I might not talk about as often. So I appreciate you guys. I appreciate both of you. And I hope anybody who's watching this that watches my channel normally, I hope you guys appreciate them too.
What about you, Archie? You got any final thoughts, brother?
Yeah, I just say be careful with extremely bullish catalysts that get hyped up. One big one that I'm seeing is the new Fed chair. A lot of people are getting excited about that. He's going to cut rates to 0. He's going to be there for Trump. I think it's a double-edged sword. You know, the new Fed chair could actually be a potential cause of a crash. And you know, we saw everyone hyped up crypto when Trump was inaugurated as president. What happened straight after it? A massive dump. So quite often these really hyped up events already get priced in way before. And secondly, they don't always live up to the expectation. And this idea of just bring in a new Fed chair, cut rates to 0, stimulate the economy. Yeah, maybe in the short term, it'll have a big rally, but that is going to lead to the biggest crash, the most inflation you've ever seen in your life. So I'm a little bit worried about that, but yeah, it's been great to be on the show. I appreciate it. I'd love to do it again, and it was great to speak to both you guys.
Absolutely, man. Honestly, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I could sit here for 5 hours and talk to you guys both. Like, you know, I get so much. But again, I want to respect everybody's time. I hope that both you guys will come back for sure. I'll send you guys messages to try to book you back in, and we'll pick up where we left off, guys.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much, guys, for being here. I'll see you guys again soon.
Take care.
Take care, guys.
Thank you.